being a helper on like the laptop? Just advancing?
Yes.
So it's your turn. You can switch off. Pardon? Yeah. Well, the cool kids sit back to class, so that's how it goes. All right. So hi everybody. Welcome to the Crystal Beach Lakeview Community Association 2022-2023 Annual General Meeting. I'm Nicholas Martinez. I am the current president. Welcome. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate everybody taking some time to be here so we can talk about our work over the past year, keep you abreast of some of the developments, and hopefully, we can elect a new slate for the new year. I'd like to start with a little icebreaker. So I know I just asked everybody to sit down, but I'm going to ask everybody to stand up really quick. And we're going to play a little game. And what we're trying to do here is find the longest resident in Crystal Beach Lakeview. So, now I moved here in 2017 with my wife and kids from Britannia. So I'm going to ask if you've moved in the last 6 years. Take a seat. Okay. If you have been in the community for less than 10 years, please sit down. Oh wow, okay. About half the room so far. If you've been in the community for less than 15 years, please take a seat. Okay, carrying on. If you've lived in Crystal Beach Lakeview for less than 20 years, have a seat. Do I hear 25 years? 30. No? Alright, we're going to stand off here. How about 35 years? Wow. Got some long-term memory here. And 40 years? Are you ladies still standing in the back? Yeah? Okay. 45 years. Ooh. There we are. Our winner. May I have your name?
Merv and Jessica.
Merv and Jessica. How long have you guys been in the neighborhood?
1968.
1968. Fantastic. So, on behalf of the Community Association, we have a little prize for you. For Jessica. It's a calendar for the new year.
Wow, thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. I've been informed that we've hit quorum, so initially I thought it was 30. It's actually 20, I guess it's been revised. And I'd like to take a moment. I'm not sure if we've sent it out to everybody. It was in the newsletter, or supposed to be in the newsletter, the minutes from the previous AGM. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from last year's AGM? Alex, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Amanda? All those in favor of approving the minutes from last year's AGM? Great. So I think that passes. Next, we're going to jump into committee reports. So I'll start with me, since I'm already here. Again, I'm Nicholas Martinez. I'm your current president. For those who don't know me, I've been here, as I said earlier, since 2017. Wife, a couple kids, and a dog, so if you see me out, I normally walk to the lighthouse. Feel free to wave and say hi. Crystal Beach Lakeview is a beautiful community to live in, to raise a family, and that's why we chose to move here. And I joined the board in part because I really wanted to see that we continue the vibrant community that I saw that existed, and that the previous boards had put in place and created for us. So I'm kind of happy to say that for the past year, and this is a bit of a light joke, but we kept the lights on. The there was some question about turnover at the end of last year and what direction do we go in as a board? Are we still relevant? Are we still doing things the community wants to see? And I think the answer is yes. Part of that, for this year, we were able to bring back Wheel Day, which I think was our first edition since pre-COVID. And I mean, it wasn't the best, but we're hoping to build on it and get some momentum going year over year as we learn more and can develop some institutional knowledge around what kind of things we need to do to set that up to be successful. We also have made some important decisions in the neighborhood regarding facilities, and one of those is we made a decision to make an investment in a snow blower for the community so that we could have continued ice rink service at Mackey through the winter months. This, for our board, was a little contentious at times, but I think ultimately we did discuss it. I think the case was put forward that this was a need and was well used by the community. And we wanted to keep our volunteers engaged and so we could all have this resource. Additionally, we've been doing a lot of work primarily to TIC for keeping us abreast of developments in the community, things like actually I'm not going to steal the thunder for TIC, we'll get to those slides in a little bit. But keeping everybody abreast of developments. I think I forgot to put another slide here, but also we've been involved with youth sports and helping to make sure that those volunteers, they use our community associations bank accounts. We collect all the fees from all the parents for youth sports, and then we disperse funds for expenses that they submit. And again, I won't steal the thunder from our treasurer, but it is for us a net benefit, the activity fees that we're getting from that, and it's good because we're able to help them and at the same time benefit from that activity and supporting that activity. Some of our challenges for this past year, number one, first and foremost, is volunteer turnover. So we're a good-sized community, but we're still a relatively small board. And I can't say enough, and I will touch on this a little bit later. To thank everyone who's stepped forward and made a contribution, whether that's taking minutes in a meeting or helping to man a station at one of our community events like Wheel Day or the Winter Carnival. Running to the store, picking up something that we need. It all contributes and helps ensure that we can have these kinds of activities. So, that being said, it's hard to retain volunteers. There's no pay, there's no benefits, there's no gold plate pension at the end of this. So, when we get people to step forward and to help out, I like to try and stress that it's important that we just value the contribution for what it is, and that is they're giving something of their time, and so we're hoping to manage this going forward, dealing with things like our directors and officers' liability concerns, which was one of the points that was made over this past year. We looked into getting insurance, and then ultimately we haven't gone ahead with it because it didn't provide the coverage that we were really looking for, and it's an expense, and we don't want to waste money on an insurance product that we don't really need or will cover us for what we think it should. And also, providing meaningful engagement. I think that was something else that I heard over this past year. So a lot of what we do is tedious. It's not always fun and engagement with the people that we want to do. Sometimes these meetings are executive meetings every month. It can be a little dry, but it's important work to have these discussions, to voice the concerns of the community, and to discuss them. So I think that's important. And another concern or challenge that we have is managing expectations for everybody in the community. I think I see a lot of it on Facebook, and Facebook is both a blessing and a curse sometimes. I think we've seen that in some of the chat that we've had recently. But sometimes we get emails and people want to see the CBLCA take action on a specific item, whatever that happens to be, whether it's parking or traffic calming or the new family shelter that's going to be negotiated at one work center. And we don't really have authority to intervene and stop something or make a decision, but we can lobby for you. So I think it's having that understanding that what we do is for the community and on behalf of the community, but at the same time, we're not miracle workers and we're not local representatives. So it's directing those kinds of questions to the appropriate groups, and hopefully together we can all bring this stuff forward, advance, and help build a brighter CBLCA for tomorrow. With that, I'm going to call up our treasurer, Merv, to give us a little overview of our finances for the past year.
Thanks, Nick. Well, now we've reached the highlight of the evening, right? I can just see everybody's eyes roll, stand up here with these money things. So I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible. I asked for half an hour, 3/4 an hour. They said I couldn't have it. So I'm going to give you the short story, the 10-minute version. So what you see up there now is the financial report, and that highlights our income and our expenses for the period that we're covering. It doesn't cover a full year because this is the middle of November, but it's fairly close to where most of our expenses have been incurred, so I think we'll cover that. So if you look at the income, and I don't have a good view here, but so if you look at the income, I'll just go through those very briefly. The first one is for youth sports, and that's one of the major programs I think we see in the summer around here. I don't know if either Amanda or Corinne is here, but these two people run a youth program which had over 80 young people from our community involved. They're there twice a week. They organize it all. They organize the finance, and they bring that money in. I'm going to go on now to the expense side, because if you look at the youth sports, those are the expenses. So there's about $3,800 or $3,900 for income, and the expenditures are $31. They collect money, and we just handle the bank for them. I forget, the fees are generally $15 or $20. They buy all the equipment for it. And one of the interesting things is that though we are in the community and we are organizing sports for our youth, we still have to pay the City of Ottawa for the use of that field, and I think that was somewhere around $440 or something like that for the summer program. So that one is done, has been handled very well, and I think a lot of our young people are getting an opportunity to get into sports, especially those that don't have the opportunity to move out of the community. Second one is donations. And I will highlight that one because it has to do with the rental of the clubhouse of Mackey, and there are two ways that Mackey operates. If the items are booked through the city, they have to pay the city for the fees that are incurred. For the local community, we are extremely lucky that we have a venue, because there are about 20 groups that book through the local people, and they don't pay the charges that you would incur if you had to book it through the city. There are a couple of grandfathered committees that are in there, One of them is the, well, I won't give it to anyone, but one of them gave us a donation of $1,000, so that gives you an idea. And these are the things that keep the community going and keep Mackey going. The carnival is always a highlight, so you can see the expenses on there, about 800. The carnival somewhere around 1,253, and we brought in 825 from a donation from one of the local realtors. Mackey used, well, Wheel Day was another item that we put on as a community organization, and it probably wasn't as well attended as it was the previous year, but I think the people that were there really enjoyed it, so it was worthwhile from our point of view. Mackey use on the income is $620. Some of the people who are using it are essentially giving us a donation, if you want to call it that. And I have to highlight here again all the work that Amanda does. The way that we have to commit to that is through an application to the city for each group that uses it. And that application has to list each night. This is not, well, we're going to use every Tuesday. We have to list it for November 7th, November 14th, November 21st, and if there's 25 of those, you've got to get into it. So the amount of work that Amanda has done for us has been unbelievable. So we really appreciate that. The income from the city for the rink is about $5,325, and they put up the rink boards. We receive the money and it's passed on to the committee that operates the rink, and that is a thing which everybody's involved in. Crystal, we know that that the effort that you put in on this is quite substantial in the winter. And keeping it all organized, keeping the Mackey facility running with people in it, and keeping, I think the ice is in some cases is believed to be the best in the city of Ottawa for outdoor rinks. So we've got a fantastic situation here. And where is the, okay, so pass our thanks on to the rest of your committee that does that. The other income, there's a small item in there in terms of the interest that we received on a couple of our GICs. So the items in expense are pretty well, I think I pretty well highlighted those. And so that situation has left us with about a $7,000 deficit for the year. And if you look under other expenses, you'll see that was a significant item, which is about $8,100, which includes a snow blower for about $5,600. It also includes a donation to the Ottawa West Winter Trail. And by the way, we do offer an opportunity for people who are using the trail to provide their donation to the Ottawa West Winter Trail, and we will match that. Last year we approved $750, and I think there were donations that amounted to $100, so we matched that with $100, and we gave them $950. There were some other minor expenses including that, but the snow blower was one of the major ones. So if we could just go on to the balance sheet. And the assets that we have consist of a small amount of cash, and our bank is $3,675. When we saw the amount of cash that we had available last year, or at least the amount of money in the bank, we invested in 2 GICs. One of them was a $20,000 GIC, which is a fixed term. The second one, as you see in the notes, was a short-term GIC, and that can be cashed if we need that money during the year. So the total assets we have on right now are $28,716 and a few more cents. And that is pretty well where we stand because we have no liabilities at this point. We do not capitalize any of the purchases we made, so we don't see assets like snowball and things like that. I'd be glad to answer any questions if there are any. Seeing none, thank you. I'll just ask for approval of, sorry.
May I just ask a quick question, not specific to the budget sheet, but just in terms of, maybe this is more for TTIC, but previously there's supposed to be cash in lieu from our city council for the development beside Mackey Park, for those new developments for park space, and I know various things were costed out at that time. Just wondering if there's any update on whether that funds are coming to our community or if that's been reinvested back somewhere else in Bayport.
I saw Theresa, I was looking at it for the tennis bell a couple years ago, and we've heard nothing since then. So it seems to have disappeared. I don't think it's gone away, but no one seems to know how to spend it.
It's important
Sorry,
to remember.
Can you use the mic? Please.
Yeah, so this is, can I just give a bit of background on it? Like, so the townhouse developments are beside Mackey's.
I'm not supposed to get involved like this.
We're gonna rope you in.
No, you aren't. I'm running a ring, so it's very obvious I can't be involved. So the townhouse developments beside Mackey Park, I don't know all the logistics, but when those were built, because when they give up some green space or community space, oh heck, I didn't even know the history of this. When they give up some green space, the developer has to provide the city cash in lieu of providing certain amenities. And that, I think was around $34,000.
$100,000.
Was it that much more? Was intended to be reinvested in some amenities for this community. And at the time, the community association was really advocating and engaging with the community on having something in our community. My understanding is it can be used anywhere in Bayport, that the councillor has the discretion on how to spend it within the ward, but I know we were really advocating, and there was a lot of consultation to what could be done at the tennis club. There was talks about basketball courts in Mackey Park. Like, there was lots of ideas, and I'm just wondering where that one's at and what's happening. Thanks, Crystal.
So on that, Crystal, it's a great question. I think we'll have to follow up with Peggy. And for those who don't know, she may come tonight. I forgot to say this at the outset. She may come tonight, but she had 2 other AGMs and a committee meeting tonight. So if she does show up, we'll let her speak right away, and we can ask her all of those very difficult questions, and you know, hopefully get an answer, and then she'll have to run away. Or Theresa, sorry. Theresa. We'll have to ask Theresa. Yeah, so then she'll run away really quick. But that's that. Okay, so we'll put a pause on that, and we'll look into it and get back to you. Otherwise, I will pass the mic to. Yeah.
So moving on to Parks and Rec, as Merv mentioned, we have over 20 groups that use Mackey House regularly. So for these group bookings, when they book through the CBLCA, they are able to rent Mackey House for free. And why that's so important to our community is because those are our recurring groups. So for example, if you wanted to use Mackey House for, say, a birthday party, you can still book a single use. However, that is done through the city. When our recurring groups book through the CBLCA, they are covered under the CBLCA's insurance policy. So it's a blanket policy that includes all of these groups, which means they can get their rentals for free. Now, why that's so important is because we have a lot of groups for youth groups. So for example, guides, scouts, Cubs, as mentioned, youth sports, we do still have to pay a field rental fee for that. So that's not totally free, but the other ones are. And we also have a lot of craft groups. So we have a lot of creative groups that use the space. We also have 4 different yoga classes each week. And while the yoga instructors are paid, they can use the rental space for free, which keeps the cost of yoga very low in our community. So for example, if you were to attend a yoga class at a private studio, it can run up to $30 per class. By offering it at Mackey House and only paying the instructor's fees, we can keep the fees between $10 and $15 per class. So that offers our community a less expensive option for physical activity. For the CBLCA events that we offered this year, we were finally able to do some in-person events in 2023. So in January, we had the Winter Carnival, and in June, we had our Wheel Day offerings. So for that, we had the Wheel Day event at Portstown Park to kind of highlight that outdoor space. And we also ran our Winter Carnival at Mackey House, so we made great use of the rink. The next slide, please. And speaking of Mackey Rink, the CBLCA has helped the rink volunteers to fund a new snowblower this year, as Merv mentioned. So that was $5,000 plus HST. The rink staff were noticing that they were having a lot of issues, needing a lot of maintenance for the snowblowers that we previously had. And this will allow them to work more quickly, snow removal will be more efficient, which gets our rink up and running faster for the community. And thank you so much to Crystal and to Tim. I know Tim's not here tonight, but their work is so important. I know Al also runs the rink at Lakeview, so, but typically, you know, these rinks are so important to our community, so thank you so much for all of your hard work on the rinks this year. And if you'd like to follow Mackey Rink, you can follow them on Instagram, so they're always posting updates. So you can follow them at Mackey Rink CB, so you can also stay abreast of all the info on when the rink is open, especially when there might be some bad weather, that can keep you posted. As Merv mentioned, we made a donation to Canada Nordique. So the CBLCA worked alongside in a donation matching program to support the maintenance of the Ottawa West Winter Trail, and that helps to promote outdoor sports and use of our local pathways. So that was also a great way to work in conjunction with a local recreation center or recreation program. Great, thank you. And moving on to TTIC, so Kate is up next.
Is it okay? I guess it's okay. Good evening, I'm Kate Twiss. I'm chair of the CBLCA Transportation Transit and Infrastructure Committee. And the members of our committee for 2023 were Andy Plitz, Anita Vanden Weigart, Ian McConaughey, myself, Linda Newton, Mark Hollett, Michael Fleming, Nick Martinez, and Rick Nelson. And a couple of you are here tonight, so Anita and Rick, could you take a bow, please? We're your neighbors who care about the community and enjoy learning, research, and discussing and writing. Our end products are usually pieces of written communication. Membership is open to anyone who lives in CBL. And this year we've had more than enough issues, something like 30 folders of TIC engagement. It was a very busy year. We have memberships in various other organizations. We receive correspondence from or support or just keep an eye on several groups. But I'll single out the most important, and that is the Federation of Citizens Associations. Rick, Nelson and I, Rick, could you please take another bow? Attend up to 3 meetings per month. A general meeting, a planning and zoning committee meeting, transportation committee meeting, and follow the correspondence. It's a great way to find out about issues, get ideas, and learn from experienced people who live in communities further along the intensification path. It also means the CBLCA viewpoint is included when the FCA speaks to the city. Not surprisingly, the city seems to pay more attention to the FCA than to individual community associations. As always, always, cycling and pedestrian connections to Bell's Corners have been an important issue for Crystal Beach Lakeview. To keep things simple, we asked for only two things in the 2023 budget engagement last spring. Usable Holly Acres multi-use pathways, or MUPs, and a Moody Drive MUP. We're on the city budget list for Bay Board, but the list is long and the pot of money is small. We've been supporting Bike Ottawa in their attempts to retrieve the usability of the MUPs on Holly Acres Road. The Transportation Master Plan, or MTP, was updated, and for that we researched, submitted feedback at the FCA's workshop, and attended the Transportation Committee special meeting on the MTP update. It's been encouraging to have Lane Johnson elected councillor for College Ward. She seems to be working well with Theresa to improve our connections to Bell's Corners. At the Special Transportation Committee meeting, Theresa and Lane proposed amendments that will move our budget requests, winter maintenance requests, and transportation requests up the city list. The OC Transpo bus review, on the other hand, was disappointing. When OC Transpo requested our input in the spring, we sent recommendations. In the fall, we complained that not only did they not follow our recommendations, but they will remove the 258 before the train is out to Bayshore and have the service of the 58. OC Transpo finances and ridership are dismally low and not expected to improve for a very long time. We can still put forward our budget ideas before the December 6th council meeting. Do we want higher property taxes, better bus service, updated pro sports facilities, potholes fixed, more bicycle paths? How do you want Ottawa to spend your money? The community will no doubt continue to request better bike and pedestrian connections to Bell's Corners, just as we've been doing for the last 40 years. We'll keep trying to get the MUPs on Holly Acres fixed and gain access to Bell's Corners along Moody. The committee engaged in a conversation with Theresa's office about parking on Medale. City staff went out to check and have reported back that the no parking signs are as they should be. A lot of us don't feel safe, though, trying to get in and out of Carling with vehicles parked so close to the corner. We're exploring options now, and that work may continue into 2024. A traffic calming item has just recently been added. We have an opportunity to propose streets for traffic calming measures if we want them. That will be something to work on in 2024 as well. We need to research what traffic calming would mean and decide whether we want it and on what streets. One of the most positive moments of the year was the Wetlands Restoration Celebration hosted by the Ottawa Carleton Wildlife Center, the OCWC. They recognized Ian McConaughey, past chair of the TIC, and Crystal Beach Lakeview for work done a few years ago on keeping the LRT light maintenance and storage facility off Greenbelt land and supporting the Wetlands Restoration Project. I'd asked Ian to take a bow, but unfortunately he can't be here tonight. The celebration was also an opportunity to network. We told Anita Vandenveld, our Member of Parliament, that we had succeeded in changing the official plan last year. Because Moody Station is the only station on Greenbelt land, it now will not be a typical target for intensification. We also asked staff of the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority and an engineer from Public Works how we can best manage drainage on the east side of Moody. Earlier in the year, the OCWC had also given the TIC a tour of the OCWC and an explanation of the Wetlands Restoration Project. Later, we emailed Anita Vandenveld, reminding her of our conversation and restating our concerns about protection of the Greenbelt. She replied, saying she'd tell the NCC to be more careful about conservation. If you think about it, CBL is pretty much surrounded by green space on all four sides. It's our community's signature characteristic, and remarkable because we also have such great vehicular access to the rest of the city. We must continue to be vigilant about protecting what we have. We need to continue researching how drainage will be handled east of Moody. We need to continue monitoring what's going on at Graham Creek, for example, at the site plan stage for tower construction at Bayshore. In 2024, we should continue exploring the best way to protect the Greenbelt, perhaps promoting the national park concept. The NCC will be updating its master plan. That's going to require lots of work. maybe not next year, but sometime, a development is planned for Bell's Corners that could include a road through the Greenbelt. We will continue to advocate for our fur and feather neighbors and also for the parks that the outer urban sector is going to fall short of. The TIC will also need to work on climate change next year. Not possibly, but definitely. We just don't know the details yet. We hit 2023 running with the year's largest submission and probably the most difficult to research against the province's Bill 23 and related legislation.
It's all right, we can discuss them.
Oh, well, that doesn't matter, just talk.
Okay.
That's the important part, me
Yeah,
talking.
that's right.
So, anyway, we hit 2023 running with the year's largest submission and probably the most difficult to research against the province's Bill 23 and related legislation. We were part of the uproar that overturned the Ford government Greenbelt decision and now has the RCMP investigating. Ford government decisions that extended Ottawa's urban boundaries are also being overturned. The design of the apartment buildings at 3430 Carling, the former Villa Lucia, was reduced from 9-story to 6 stories and moved further from the neighbors on Elderwater. We sent second and third submissions arguing that the proposed buildings are still too big for the lot and complaining about the process. We communicated with the Rocky Point Community Association, and Rick Nelson spoke at the Planning and Housing Committee meeting. Rick, you should take that out. In a way, our 2022 work on the official plan was easier than what we had this year. It was basically one document. This year, City Hall came out with a chaotic plethora of documents to figure out how the new zoning will work, such as the urban design guidelines for low-rise infill housing and zoning bylaw discussion papers. We researched, read, and responded. Some projects stopped midstream as the FTA convinced city staff not to do the work before release of the new zoning bylaw. Another chaotic plethora of documents emerged as the city scrambled to adjust our current bylaws and the official plan to the new provincial legislation. We researched, attended meetings, and responded. We have another one. That's it. We will watch to see if city staff do in fact negotiate and implement the lease for transitional family housing at 1 Corkstown Road, the former River Park Place retirement home. We will be looking for community suggestions to make it a success. We will want to ask questions of our councillor and give ideas to city staff. Look for a name change from the TIC to the TIC committee. Planning has not been in our committee's name. The committee got its start in transportation issues, but in the last few years, issues that can be classified as planning have taken an increasingly large part of our energy. That trend of planning issues consuming more effort will continue. The TIC should be the Transportation, Infrastructure and Planning Committee, the TIP Committee. The zoning bylaw is expected to be the marquee issue for the TIP in 2024. The R1 lots most of us live on now can have 3 dwellings instead of 1. In fact, Planning and Housing Committee decided this week to consider 4 dwellings per lot. The official plan has rules, but the zoning bylaw will bring in the details about parking, soft landscaping, trees, and so on. As you travel around the city, look at streets east of us, and maybe not too far east of us, that have already intensified, and think about what that density will mean in our neighborhood, what rules you want to see. But look fast, the zoning bylaw is coming soon. Does anybody want to ask any questions?
You gonna come all the way up?
Thanks very much. By the way, very, very comprehensive. But there's one thing missing, and it's something I wanted to advise you all of. We run a tennis club in this area. And if you look at the courts, they are on the point of final disintegration. Now, last April, before the election, we had Theresa attend the meeting of the committee, And she indicated, Crystal, thanks for raising the topic there, of the money that she has discretion over. But nevertheless, we lost 2 schools in the process, right? She offered in April, which was 6 months before the election, $80,000 towards the courts. And the community association was going to add something, and the tennis club has 40 to 50,000 available. But the courts themselves apparently are so disintegrated that the water beneath is interfering with with any rehabilitation, so that the courts would actually have to be redone. Now, I've noticed up here, infrastructure, possible 2024 issues. Okay, let me tell you a little more. I was out canvassing for Theresa with her on a street in September. In April, she had said that her assistant would be put in charge of this and that we would get going on it. Not a word. Okay. By the way, I better introduce myself. My name is Ian Ash. I was, for 6 years, the president of the tennis club, and I handed over about April of last year, right? Now, at the club championships, Theresa made an appearance and had a photo op, and I invited her in to inspect the cracks on the courts. And her response was, "Oh, well, I'm no authority on cracks." That's not good enough. Now, in case you're thinking I'm running for councillor, I'm not, okay? But I believe that a councillor worth his or her salt must invest herself or himself in the community. By the way, there is an enormous voting bloc in favour of Theresa in this community. Enormous. But it's not good enough to suddenly tell me when I'm canvassing for her, oh yes, I had gone to a community member and I said, by the way, Theresa has been helping us relative to the tennis courts. And then she said, oh, by the way, we won't be subscribing. And then she told the succeeding committee that you'll have to wait your turn. Now, here's my point about infrastructure. We have seen in this community a retirement home disappear with ne'er a word to the community. And now we know that it will become a home for possible immigrants or homeless. We're not sure of the details. October the 27th, the president of the Community Association advised her, or you were advised, right? October 27th. Guess what? They're now negotiating a lease for the building. How come that can be done so quickly and so secretly? And yet, a whole facility, the tennis facility, which is vital to this neighbourhood, in terms of value and a place for children to play safely, all of a sudden, that goes right off the table. And the new committee that took over from me was told, you'll have to wait your turn. Now, I raised the topic with Theresa about those courts. I said, if we are not vigilant, they're going to go for building. And you know that there is extreme pressure for intensification. Well, Theresa laughed at me, as if it wouldn't happen. And I'll end with this. In all of 3 to 4 weeks, we suddenly have a major change in this community, with the retirement home now being negotiated for homeless or immigrants. I think it's time for this community to kind of stand up and say, look, you have support in an election, but isn't it time that you as councillor address yourself to some of the harder issues? And one of them is to retain the asset of the tennis club for this community. And thanks very much for listening. But I wanted to get it across to the Community Association here. This could become a very vital topic. We have been deceived relative to that apartment building, the retirement home. We cannot allow ourselves to be deceived anymore. And thank you for the opportunity to put that case.
Have you any sense that the water table is rising under the tennis court?
Sorry.
Why do you think
Can you
it's...
speak closer to the mic, please? Thank you.
I wanted to ask Ian if he has any sense that the water table is rising under the tennis court.
I know authority on the water table, but I do know that if I see courts with a wave, something is happening, right? There was the building of houses on the far side of Corkstown, and they were pounding to establish the foundations for the houses, and that did cause cracks. But the cracks now, in some parts of those courts, the cracks are about 1.5 inches. Something is happening. It was built, by the way, on a marsh. So what I would like is that basically infrastructure, not just possible 2024 issues, it is an issue. The community obviously does not want to lose that facility. But with intensification, one never knows if a developer puts in a bid. And the city will say, oh well, we don't have the finance to replace the courts.
Yeah. Question, who owns the land that you're on?
The land, by the way, the land is owned by Ottawa, right? And by the way, the City of Ottawa has been very helpful in terms of, cutting the grass and all that kind of thing. No complaints there. It's just that when I'm talking to any councillor, I want to see an investment of self into an asset which could be lost if nothing is done to improve it to the point where it is useful to the community. Just like Merv Sullivan was a good councillor.
Anybody else want to bring forward an issue or ask a question?
Okay, I think we're still doing okay for time. But 8 o'clock. Let's see. Amanda, can you advance one slide? Oh, outgoing members of the executive. Sorry, outgoing members of the executive. Okay, so this is us. This past year, we had myself as president, Kevin Brewer, past president, Simon McDonald and Brian Stanley as vice president. Seems to be one of the more difficult positions to retain. Neither of them could be here. Brian moved away from the community. He was posted elsewhere. He's with the military, and Simon's just a busy guy. Travels a lot for work, so he's going to be stepping down. We have Alexander Longpree, who's faithfully taken our notes for all of our executive meetings for this past year. Merv Sullivan presented our treasurer's report and is our current treasurer. We have Ian Brown, who was our comms chair. He took a step back partway through the fall, but he's still with us to send out the newsletter that everybody receives. And he's been invaluable in terms of updating our website and getting our communications out on time. I would personally like to say thank you to him also for accepting my very late president's note submissions. I'm always the last person to get my newsletter content done because I'll blame it on my Latino heritage. I'm a notorious procrastinator, and that's just it. So I appreciate his patience in dealing with my very late submissions. Kate Twist, our chair for TIC, I know she doesn't like my stutter when I say it that way, but at the same time, you know, I like to have both T's there. Amanda Furby, our Parks and Rec chair, who does so much for the activities in the community and getting all of our contracts signed and making sure the day-to-day of Mackie is well serviced. And our local zone reps, we have Hope Ring. There we go, thank you. Rick Nelson, take another bow. And John Alowski, who couldn't be here tonight, he was also traveling. So for our outgoing members of the executive, if I could get please, like a little. Perfect. And Theresa?
Yeah.
So thank you for showing up. I don't know if I can put you in the hot seat. Did you want to have a moment to address the community?
There's no other seat. I'm used to it. Sure.
No problem. Okay, great.
Were you wrapping up?
Well, not yet.
Oh,
I was told that you would not be able to stay necessarily, so that.
No, I can stay now. I was at another AGM.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure what the order of the day was for you, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
I thought that was fair. I was spending a second so you here so that I could be here more.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go because I've called you up,
Okay.
and then we'll deal with the election of our new board after.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I thought you were done. Oh, okay.
Hi everyone, it's great to be here. I was just at the far end at Westboro, so the new part of my ward. Thank you. So, no, great to be out here. Well, it's, where do I start? I mean, there's so many things that have been going on. November has been budget month. That's what's going on at City Hall. Each committee is going through a section of the budget. Everyone knows the budget has been pretty well set. It's got a ceiling on it, a 2.5% increase. That's it. So we have to work with the numbers within that. And so we've been presented with great big binders, and each committee is going through their section of the budget. We've done transit, which includes ridership, and I know Kate is interested in that. As well, we've got the transportation budget, which has got some good news for improvements to both roads and cycle infrastructure. We always want more. And we have the Environment Committee that just met this week, and looking at the Waste Management Master Plan Phase 3. So lots still to be done as we deal with the fact that people are still not recycling enough or composting enough. So please tell all your friends to do that. It saves millions of dollars actually when you do. So please continue. Conversations about what to do if we don't are a little scary, actually. So we'll hope that everyone's doing that. Other budgets coming up is community services. That's always the biggest one. I'm on that committee as well. What else is there been in terms of the ones that have been done? That's a pretty good overview. So yeah, so been working on that, and you know, in terms of things that are going on around here, I think everyone's aware about Corkstown Road and transitional housing that will be coming. They're working on a lease right now. I know there's been a lot of discussion on that. It is for families, and it's a mixture of the type of families. I seem to get a lot of questions about what kind of families. A lot of newcomers, but it's a mix. I don't have a date for when it'll start. I expect it's definitely in the new year, probably early in the new year is what I would guess. We'll keep you posted for sure on that. There's also something that's going to come up in my newsletter tomorrow. We'll be talking about all the what we're putting in place for homeless in general in the city. There's a chronic problem. We're feeling it here in terms of people being homeless, but it's happening across the city with encampments across the city, and so it's not a surprise that we're seeing it here as well. So they're going to be doubling up beds as much as possible. It's bunk beds, but in the facilities that we have, all of the shelters are filled to capacity and beyond. I keep in touch with the mission. I've got friends that work there, and I hear about the numbers and what they have to do. So it's something that we're just grappling with, and it's going to get cold tonight. I know that. So it's a tough one. Coming up, well, last night we had the meeting for Lincoln Fields, so that was on the secondary plan. So kind of interesting and exciting. All the things that are happening, what they're going to do to that site, and how it affects the area around. So we've taped it, and so we'll be putting that on our newsletter if you didn't catch it. But suffice to say, there'll be quite a bit of, we'll take about like 10 high-rises on the site, but there's also going to be a great big park right through the middle of it, as well as a roadway going north and south. So it's going to feel like a community rather than just like it was before, a great big parking lot with a mall stuck in the middle. All that will be gone, and it'll be very lively. It'll have commercial. It's RioCan that operates it, and RioCan's basic business was shopping malls, but they're obviously moving away from that and going into residential. So this will be a mix, and they'll start at the end closest to the transit station. So that's their plan. So kind of the most interesting, weirdest thing is the bridge that goes across right now from Edgeworth to heading west to Lincoln Fields. It doesn't have to be a bridge anymore. We realized that there's no need for it anymore once there's no transit way. We can just put tunnels and just fill it in and make it a permanent mound, as it were, which just blew my mind. So I had to get my head around that. But you have to keep in mind that all the transit way will be green space in the future. There's no need for it. There's no buses. So that'll be, pardon?
Still a parkway.
Yeah, well, the parkway will stay the parkway, but we're talking about the transit way that was only for buses. So the part that was only for buses that goes south will be gone. So some of the things. We've had some issues or concerns about community safety. We're looking at putting a community safety meeting together on the 28th. That's next week. You probably got a MailChimp. If you're on the newsletter list, you got that sent to you. And I just talked to members of the police force today, along with some community partners that we work very closely with about issues in the communities like Pinecrest, Queensway, and others. just to, you know, be there too and talk about what they're trying to do to prevent crime. And we've got some really good programs that go on. We could use more, obviously, but at least we're working on those things, and I'm very proud of those people. We've also got reps from Ottawa Community Housing to talk about any issues they've been having, or just to explain, you know, what's happening at Ottawa Community Housing. Now, in case you didn't know, I'm the chair of Ottawa Community Housing, so I'm very proud of them. This is the affordable housing in our city. It's the social housing in our city, so deeply affordable. We have 15,000 units across the city, and it's nowhere near enough because we have 12,000 people on the waiting list. So we need a lot more. Our goal right now is to build, and that is not, that's not easy because we need money. But we get it from all levels of government, so sounds like the feds want to be cooperative on that with the housing initiative and accelerator fund, pardon me. And the province as well, they see the need. So we're working closely with them. Often we're using land on our own site, sometimes city land or other donated land from the federal government, and projects are going to be happening across the city. Right now, the completed one is at Rochester, where we've completed our first new housing in many, many years. So it's very exciting. We can't build it fast enough to deal with the crisis out there, but every bit helps. So I'm very proud of the staff there. It's a lot of fun working with them, and because it just makes you feel like, oh good, we're doing something. So so that's kind of a basic overview. I'm sure there's questions, so I don't mind answering.
There were a few questions that came up earlier in the meeting, so I think I'll summarize and then pose those to you, and then maybe you can get a quick reaction. They're sort of related. One has to do with the funds that were allocated for our community following the development of townhouses on Leaning Drive, or just off of Leaning Drive. And the second point, St. Thomas.
Okay.
So a few years back there was development.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there were some funds that were set aside for our community as a result of that development work. We would like to know, one, if that's still available, and two, how we can possibly use it. I think there was also a question specifically about the tennis courts, because I think at one point there had been some communication to the community that those funds might be allocated to the tennis courts and the revitalization of that asset for our community, and if there are any plans for that in the near to midterm. Let's see. I think that's it. We'll start with those, and then I'll let everybody else have that, Theresa, after.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to check about the cash and honestly, I'm not sure where it is. So in terms of how much it was, I know that there was some attempts to try to put things into the Mackey Park, but it didn't work because it just didn't fit in the basketball net or something. But I'd have to check and get back to you honestly. I don't have an answer for you tonight. And in terms of the tennis court, it originally was looked at as that they were going to be getting funding, and it wasn't correct. And I was left holding the bag on that because I was told I had it in writing that there was going to be some, and it wasn't. So it's going to take a few years. They go by the condition of the courts, and they prioritize them across the city. And even though I've been there, there's some cracks, etc. Obviously, there's other areas that they've said are more in need. So it's a tough one, but I can see where it is.
By the way,
in terms of I'm up to date.
I'd like to say, you're saying it's a tough one, but you are the councillor for the area.
I know.
So accept the responsibility and put your thumb on the scale for this community before that tennis club is lost to us and the area is lost to us. That's what I'm concerned about, because you could, in 3 to 4 weeks, arrange that the retirement home was transferred to transitional housing. How come it's taking years before a tennis club facility for the whole community, which supports you strongly? How come the club and the community has to wait so long, and all you're going to say is, it's tough? Put your thumb on the scale, Councillor, and show us that you represent us for the protection of our assets.
Ian, we're talking about very different things. And it's kind of interesting because that building was empty. It doesn't belong to the city. It's not a city.
Address the courts. Address the courts.
I have to check on the courts.
You told me when I invited you to look at the cracks.
Yes.
You said, oh, I'm no authority on cracks. You wouldn't even look at the cracks. And the only way you looked at the cracks was when I introduced you to the new president of the club, who then escorted you in to the courts. I don't believe that you are serious in protecting our community assets as appropriate. I know Ottawa owns the land. You're our councillor. You're our representative. So we say to you, what are you doing to protect our assets?
I'll look into it, Ian. I don't know the status of it right now.
You told us that before. Just get going on it.
I will. I will.
And it's going to become an issue that's going to follow you. But I'm not running for councillor.
I hear you.
I'm not running for councillor. I'm representing the tennis club.
I get that. And I respect it. But to compare it to a building that was left empty, not belonging to the city, where we have a strong need to put in families with no homes, I don't think that's a fair comparison. I'm sorry.
Why the late notice to us? On October the 27th, we knew about the change of that building, right? And now you're into full negotiations, and it can be done so fast. That is a vaster project, certainly, than the tennis club. And I appreciate.
Can I explain why? Or do you want
Oh,
to
certainly.
continue?
Certainly. What I'm saying is, look, this was a matter of trust. You did not inform this community early enough about what was going on about that retirement home. And don't give me the nonsense about, oh, there was negotiation about the lease. Interestingly enough, you had a council meeting and now you're negotiating the lease. So I didn't quite understand why there was such concern that, oh, I better not bring it to the community because the city is discussing the use of the building with the old owners.
The way it works is I could not discuss it until the report was filed. It's confidential information. That is why I couldn't bring it forward. I was aware that they were going to be looking at it, but until the report was filed, and as soon as it was filed, I called your president to let them know, because I wanted to let you know as soon as possible. Yes, it was a very tight timeline. And by the way, the money that's used for that would have been spent anyway, because we use it to spend on housing families in motels. And paying for motels, room by room, is very expensive. This is actually going to save money because it's one building, one lease. And it's going to have, I don't know the number of families. We know there's 170 rooms. There are not going to be 170 families, but because there are large families. But let's just say there's 100, 120. Whatever it is, that means that we're not paying for those motel rooms. So this is actually a good move.
It's a very positive one in terms of, and it means 24-hour staff presence. I'm used to it because I'm right down the street from Carling Shelter. I'm used to it. I see the families there, their mothers with small kids, putting them on the bus every day. No big deal. They've been there for decades. We're just doing the same thing here because, in fact, it was members of the community that brought it to my attention saying, hey, there's an empty building here. And with all the homelessness people around here, shouldn't we use that building? So I took that information and sent it to the general manager. And by fact, she actually knew about it as well and was looking into it. And so that is what it was. We have to empty some motels.
So you resolved that. You resolved that, and
Yes.
it's
So
clearly accepted.
I'm explaining the timeline and what it is.
It's clearly accepted. But it's a done deal. The tennis courts are still in abeyance, and we expect from you action. And by the way, I have no doubt that it wasn't just a member of this community that suddenly keyed in somebody, oh, that should be available for the homeless.
It actually is. Several.
Yeah.
I don't give names, but I can tell you.
Well, I can't say I don't believe it because I don't know the full facts. You do. But
do.
it sounds a bit thin to me.
You believe what you want to believe, but it didn't occur to me until somebody brought it to my attention. I was aware that the building was empty, but because it's a private business, it's a for-profit business, I expected they were going to do something with their property. I was waiting to see. Normally, the city does not get involved with private property.
Well, I'll tell you, Theresa. In April of last year, I think, we met relative to the tennis club. And you told me and the members of the committee, I'm placing this matter in the hands of my first assistant. And she will be in touch with you. We never heard a word, for the whole summer until I was canvassing on your behalf with you on a street. And you heard me say to a constituent that Theresa has been helping us with the tennis club. And then you delivered to me the news that it's over, basically. Nothing would be done with the club. It's Ottawa land, by the way.
I'm aware.
So now, your word is important. You gave us a word, nothing happened for that whole summer.
I apologize.
And I feel concerned when you say tonight about the money that is in your treasury from that school that was demolished. Oh, I have to look into it. For goodness sake.
Well,
it's no more than a couple of $100,000.
Yeah, the money, there's money there. I just want to check on what the amount is, and I'm happy to work with the community.
But is that not something that you should be in clear touch with? As a councillor, this is your community.
Sure.
So, Ian, I appreciate the passion for the issue, but I also still want to give the opportunity to other members of the community to ask Theresa some other questions. I think the main...
Thank you.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Yeah. So, we'll move on to any new questions. Do we have any other questions for Theresa? We'll try and keep them brief because we do have one more very important issue to get to, which is the election of the new board. So I want to save a little bit of energy for that, but we do have one question here, so I'll let you go ahead. Do you want to?
No, I think I can speak loud enough.
You can speak loud enough?
Okay. Theresa, I've been around talking to my neighbors on various streets in the Theresa Beach Lakeview area, asking them what their reaction is to the change from the seniors building to a housing building for families and whatever. And their immediate reaction from the young parents is, oh, we're going to have to get the bikes into the garage. Oh, we're going to have to put this away. these people are going to be, they're not used to having a society that we have where we just leave things out because theft is very little here. So they want to know is the police going to be increased in this area with this group of people? Or how is this going to affect how we live our lives here? Because it makes a difference.
Well, the facility is going to have 24-hour staffing. So, and the goal of the staffing is to work with these mostly newcomers, helping them with employment, helping them, with their kids. They'll do like a little homework club, which is quite special since they've previously been in motel rooms, which wasn't great. So they're going to be doing things with those staffers. And in terms of being out in the community, I don't expect they will be. I'll repeat. I live down the street from a family shelter. I also have a motel 2 blocks from me. I don't have any issues. It's crime can happen just about anywhere, and these families are children. They must be under 18, but generally they're much younger. So so they'll be going to school. They'll be doing their homework in the building. They'll be going for walks with their family members. But if you want me to guarantee something's not going to happen or will happen, I can't. But I can tell you from my own experience, I have not had issues.
Hi, it's David Weatherall. 2 questions. The first one is, do we know which schools the children at this new facility will be going to? And the second one is the plan moving forward with the facility to continue as a family shelter as long as the facility is used in that capacity.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the second question.
Is it planned to be a family shelter like permanently, indefinitely? Or is there a plan for a family shelter for a short period of time and then transition to a different type of shelter? Is there any discussion about that or anything on the topic?
It's going to be a lease. So we don't own the building. We're leasing it from the owner. And so it's not permanent. I don't know how long the lease will be for. But we do have a desperate need to move people out of motels. There are motels that are actually closing up and are not very good. This will be a much better situation for them, absolutely. I'm sorry, what was your first question?
So the first question was, do we know which schools?
Schools, yes. Yeah. Chances are they'll go to an English stream school, or they could be francophones and go to a francophone stream school. They're not likely to be in French immersion, but I can't say 100%. Maybe they will, but I know I was the school board trustee for 8 years, and it's been, I know that Lakeview is pretty full. I haven't checked it lately, but it's a small school. But chances are they will probably go to an English stream school. Now, the one in my area, the kids go to a school like Pinecrest, which is English stream, and the francophones go to I think it's Charlotte Lemieux. So it depends. This area is just a little bit different, and I haven't checked which ones they would be in, but that's generally what happens. So they can pass there.
I'm not sure if this is a question or a comment, but with regards to the one question, I knew it said somebody had suggested it to you so that you took it forward to the GM or something. Did you not think at that time it might be a good idea to talk to the community earlier, before the negotiation? I know you can't talk about confidential documents and those kind of things. That may have been a good opportunity to loop in the community, get a pulse or something. Because what I'm seeing now is someone's misinformation, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fighting, a lot of ugliness. I think maybe if the heads up was given a little earlier, or something have been done to communicate the information in not such a rushed manner, I think would maybe help a bit, but I don't know,
I can understand. I absolutely understand that.
But it's a little difficult when you're making a negotiation. It's like as if you were buying a house and you're negotiating, and I tell everybody you're buying the house when it hasn't been done yet. So I had first, so it, I couldn't, I was under, you know, that's the way the rules go. And it was painful. That's why I couldn't wait to tell as soon as I can. It was a very short time frame.
I understand. I feel a little bit of negative fallout from that. And
yeah, and it's the unknown. Understood.
I guess maybe this is more of a comment. It just it erodes public trust. Like people feel like they were blindsided. So it's just something to consider. I know you're aware of these things. I'm just saying, as much we want to be involved and know what's happening in our community. So
yeah,
we appreciate
I
as much
understand.
information that you can be with. I understand confidentiality agreements. I understand processes are quick. I understand this could have fallen through, and there would have been no reason to consult with us, because then, if it didn't go through, then it would have been wasting people's, or kind of raising the alarm when not necessary. But
yeah.
I don't like what I'm seeing.
I very much would have liked to. I like to consult.
I don't like what I'm seeing with some people, and just kind of the.
I think it takes
what
a while.
this is doing
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. But I'm still very hopeful that this will work out. And like I said, it's staffed 24 hours. This is city staffing that they're, you know, these are people that are being helped and being given direction, employment training, and you know, helping out with the kids. It's way better than when I see people in a motel, which is what currently is happening. So having one building is quite frankly quite a find, an unusual find.
I have a question about one town. I live, so it is in my garden. Cedar hedges here, and it is there. And what I'm seeing, I guess I'll preface it with, I would like to know how quickly the city is going to clinch the deal with the owners of this building to actually have this plan take effect.
I think they're trying to work very quickly.
So it should be within what, a month or so? You were saying people would be moving in by
I think the new year.
And nobody else is buying for this lease?
Well, the whole point of the report was giving the authority for the city to go forward with a lease.
Yes, but I just wondered, do you have competitors for the building with this lease?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
Because I just want to say this so that people know. Very frequent, my windows back onto the parking lot at the building. And more weekends than not, there are, and I wrote a letter to you about this some weeks ago, saying that there are developers who've got to arriving in the parking lot in droves. I mean, sometimes there are 30 different vehicles with, say, 5 or 6 developer groups, all swarming the building, on the roof, exploring inside, outside. Different groups have keys.
They may be on contract with the
What
city.
are they doing?
They may be on contract with the city if they're
Only
prepared.
one day was there a vehicle from the city with a fire truck, a fire department car. You know, that was definitely city for the codes of this, the fire codes in the building.
Probably.
But I'm just wondering, like, I mean, were these people competing with the city?
No.
And they're talking about, I only hear the conversations when the weather was nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear the conversations drifting in my windows. 23 stories, we're going to build out the edges of the property, condos up to here. Frankly, it really,
It's being
the window.
it's being leased. It has been bought by someone else. It's not owned by Chartwell.
Yes, I hear there's a Toronto company
Blue Veil.
owns it now.
Blue Veil.
Correct.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're very happy to be
To
part
lease
of
to
this.
the city.
Yes,
Because you'd be very safe.
that's right.
Okay, so I don't have to worry about these miserable people who arrive with all their, well, I won't go into their
said that, like, my understanding is they're checking out the building.
They are.
Yeah, so they're getting it ready.
Yes, these people have always, anyway, I will stop. I'm reassured enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. The city.
I know people have said the rooms are too small, and I've seen the rooms.
I'm sure you will.
But in terms of comparing it to a hotel, it's like years ahead.
Oh, I have, myself, I have no worry on that score. Eddie's comment, I do have some.
Yeah.
I mean, the unknown.
Yes.
But basically, I just don't want a developer building out and blocking my sunrise.
The Bluevale is, I've met with Bluevale, and they're very happy with this arrangement with the city. It's perfect for them. It works well.
What is Bluevale? What do they use?
Pardon?
What does Bluevale do?
They are a small developer. They actually have bought up hotels and buildings in other cities and turned them into housing.
Because I think Charles sold it to somebody else, then sold it to somebody.
I don't.
Excuse me,
I just.
Nick, can we have people speak up?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think Charles sold it to one company, who went on their business, who's probably flipped it again. It's my suspicion.
I don't know about that. That's not, I don't know. All I know is who the present owner is, and I know that the city is leasing from. That's it.
Any other questions?
No? I have one question that Teresa may not like, and that is, I'm a bit disappointed.
I always like your questions, Rick.
I'm a bit disappointed that you voted yesterday in favor of keeping Doug Ford's height limits on minor corridors. Just for the audience, we had an official plan that we all negotiated with. Doug Ford came along and changed it. Doug Ford has now removed his changes, but the city has voted yesterday to keep his changes in certain areas within any public consultation law. And I think that's an affront on democracy, personally.
Yeah.
And you voted for it too, by the way.
I did vote for it. I did vote for it. The only other thing that was going to happen is if it went to planning committee, it would have come back and it would have been supported. We are under pressure from both the federal government and the provincial government to do very heavy duty intensification. And we have to take every opportunity, and they're watching. And we're expecting funding from them. And that is important.
But that's no reason to completely blow all the public consultation we have in the original plan. You all spend a lot of time on it. And the heights don't matter as much as the process of you throwing the whole thing out and say, well, Doug Ford's given us a backdoor to keep these changes we want. I don't think that's the way we should our business, is it?
You and my husband.
I'm sure.
I'm popular to you.
Well, thank you, Theresa, for coming. I know there were some tough questions at different points, but I think we can all appreciate the engagement for the community and giving us a forum to ask the questions and get sort of a candid response. So, that being said, can I get a round of applause for Theresa? So we did have in the agenda officially a 15-minute health break, but since we're kind of already 8:35-ish, I'd like to try and just push through if we could and get a new slate of the executive nominated for next year, so that we can all go home and enjoy the rest of Thursday night football in America. So, Amanda, can I get you to? Oh, we're on nominations. Okay. So, we have some people back, which is great. We do have a few vacancies, which I'm going to ask that we just lock the door until somebody comes forward to fill every vacant position. But joking aside, we do need somebody to step forward for the vice president's role. We do need somebody to step forward for the secretary's role. If we don't get these two positions filled, we have an issue as a board because it's required by our constitution that we have at least a president, a vice president, a treasurer, and a secretary. So at this point, if you're on the fence, if you've ever thought about joining the CBLCA executive, if you're currently on the executive and have thought, hey, I could probably do more than just being a zone rep, can I get nominations from the floor? Willing sacrifice for the role of vice president? A little bit about the position. It's not very involved. You mostly just have to sign checks and show up to a 2-hour meeting that I try to keep to about an hour, the third Thursday of every month. There's 2 events, Wheel Day and the Winter Carnival, where we're going to rope you into some volunteer activities.
I have a question. You said it's hard to keep this one in place. So is there a reason why?
No,
I like
honestly.
checks.
So yeah, no. Honestly, it's just, I mean, like people join typically they're motivated, right? You're evangelized around some issue, one way or the other. You move to the neighborhood and you want to contribute, and that was my wife's. I followed my wife to board, so she was there first, and then she stepped down as a zone rep, and I took her spot. And I'm a little less evangelized. I'm just more like, okay, let's do it. You know, we'll keep going, keep plugging away at it, or whatever. But so I think that we get that, and then people lose their enthusiasm, and then that's it. And they say, okay, well I've done my turn, and pass the baton, and that's okay.
Katrina just said she likes writing checks.
I was joking.
So, but honestly, it's not like it's like a super tough deal, and you get lots of support. Honestly, vice president is probably the easiest role that there is on the executive. There's an email, the general inbox for the CBLCA. Typically, the vice president monitors that email. At the moment, I'm doing both the president's email and the vice president's email. It's like 15 minutes once a week. Check it, make sure you get the appropriate emails to the right people, and then or respond to members of the community and say, hey, I saw this, we'll bring it up at the next meeting, that kind of thing. I've got you now.
I'll second the nomination for
Yes. Give it a try. At the very least, give it a try. We can backfill you later. It's also a great way to meet some of your fellow neighbors.
What's the time commitment? Sorry.
Okay, 1 meeting, third Thursday of every month, and you don't have to do all of them. You just have to do your best.
And not in the summer.
And not for the summer. That's right. We take summers off, so it's like teacher's schedule. But honestly, it's about 1 to 2 hours, I'm gonna say, in total per month. It's not a whole lot.
I'm not volunteering it,
Yeah.
but I'm just adding, so I was in the secretary role for 1 year and the vice president role for 2 years, and then I decided to run rink instead. But I think you can make the role and the experience what you want it to be. I joined because I wanted to meet people, but also for community building and engagement was my focus at that time. Talking to the community to bring the issues up. I want to just remind the current exec or the incoming exec, there's a report from 2019 in November when there was over 100 people in this room that informed what the community wanted to see the community association do. And I think if the association is able to lobby around those issues, you will get volunteers versus lobbying around positions, but that's my opinion. You can fill the positions based on the issues, but I think you can make it what you want. You can make it as minimal or as maximum as you want, and I probably invested more time than many others, but
all right, I can trial run this.
Perfect.
Well done.
So, can I get your name for the record?
So Katrina Holland.
Katrina Holland. Okay. And now I need a secretary. Now, Alex is going to be stepping down from the secretary's role. You can ask him what the position is like, but it's mostly just minutes. Essentially, it's the same meeting, taking minutes, helping us record, the great decisions that we make. And that's about it. Again, it's about 1 to 2 hours a month. I'm gonna keep waiting. We've got 17 minutes.
So just to come back to me for a second, if you like left this role, it doesn't come to me, does it?
No. Well, I mean, technically it does. But I'll tell you this: I'm not gonna step down. I'm power hungry, and I'm gonna seize control. I'm happy with it.
In 40 years.
Back to the secretary.
Yeah, secretary. Hope, can we rope you in again?
So I will take the secretary role temporarily until one of you all step up.
I'll keep it in the newsletter.
I'm very bad about deadlines. This is my problem with secretary role. So if somebody wants to come to a meeting and see what it's like to try to do the secretary, and then you decide you don't want to do it, that's okay, you can do that.
And
But
we
yes,
have
you can-
excellent templates to follow, so.
You can slot me in temporarily.
Perfect, thank you both. Okay, so with the current listed nominees, we have Kevin still as past president for as long as I continue to be president. He can't step down. And myself, I'm going to be back. We have, sorry again? Katrina as our vice president, Merv as our treasurer, Amanda back for Parks and Rec, although if anybody feels passionate about it, I believe we're also looking for some more support on Parks and Rec to help with just carrying the load, filling out some of the contracts, etc. Please feel free to approach afterwards. And Kate as our TIC or perhaps TIP chair. We'll work out the names later. And we have Rick and John Olowski as our zone reps for zones 3 and 4. Also, if anyone wants to be a zone rep, there's not a whole lot of leaflets going around anymore. We do it mostly by the email newsletter, so e-newsletter. Mostly you just have to attend the executive meeting. It's a good way to get your foot wet and see sort of business of the CBLCA. So, that all being said, do I have a motion to approve the slate of nominations? Merv, thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
There we go. I think I saw Kevin's hand go up first, so I'm going to say Kevin for the record. And all those in favor? Perfect. We're down for another year of fun. Next slide.
Oh, it's just the question slide.
Yes, so we had the tough questions for Theresa. I think we had some TIC questions. Does anybody have any other questions for me that I can answer?
Yes, I'm just going to keep pestering about that 2019 summary report.
The
'Cause
summary report and the
I just want to
survey?
make sure the executive's aware of it, because it's something that I valued at the time, and we had, like, this room was full.
Right.
It was full. I would say it was at the peak of our community involvement. Of course, it was pre-pandemic and a lot has changed, but we had tremendous community support for the executive. We had tremendous community support for volunteerism and what the issues were.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we got to bring that back. Like, it never got legs because of the pandemic. There was 3 or 4 themes in there and lots of suggestions. We had large group and small group, and it was facilitated by Sign Up City. And the report's on our website still, but I just hope the current exec is
Take a peek at it, and give it another crack, see if we could evangelize some community members around those themes.
Yeah,
Sure.
totally. And I can see how the committee has already actioned a lot of things on it. Like cycling infrastructure was a big piece on that. But yeah, just I don't want that to get lost, because those are the types of things that are that can easily get lost. And if there's this conflict in our community, as we're seeing, I think
absolutely. And actually on that point, so I think I forgot to also mention this at the beginning, I was being forgetful. We do have a little pulse survey on the table. There are not very many pens to go around, but there are some. I think I put one on every table. If you could fill that out, we have a little jar here at the front, just tear off. If you want to rank your issues, just prioritize them kind of 1 to, I think there's 6 listed, so you just put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in your personal priority listing. That would also help inform current direction. We'll of course use the 2019 survey, which I think was more robust, but this was just a little something to help get everyone's opinion today, based on today's issues and maybe the last few years. So with that being said, if there are no questions, I think we're done. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Rick wants to get out of here. Who else wants to get out of here? Yeah? Okay, seconded. All in favor of leaving? Perfect. Who's going to lock the doors? And thank you guys for showing up. I really appreciate it. Again, taking your time. Happy American Thanksgiving.